The Israel-Palestine conflict is a subject of enduring complexity, marked by a series of events that have had profound implications for the Middle East and beyond. One such pivotal moment was the rise of Hamas during the First Intifada in 1987. This narrative aims to offer an exhaustive account of the formation and evolution of Hamas, shedding light on its origins, key players, and the events that led to its establishment. The scope of this analysis extends beyond the mere chronology of events. It seeks to explore the actions taken by Hamas, as well as other parties involved in the conflict, and to understand the causal relationships that have shaped the trajectory of this organization. What were the motives driving these actions? How have these actions influenced the course of the Israel-Palestine conflict? These are some of the questions that this narrative aims to answer. Furthermore, the impact of peace talks and diplomatic efforts on Hamas and the broader conflict will be examined. Have these talks been effective in mitigating tensions, or have they inadvertently exacerbated the situation? This is another critical aspect that will be scrutinized. In order to maintain objectivity, this analysis will adhere strictly to a secular and impartial perspective. It will also place the emergence and activities of Hamas within the broader historical context, tracing back to the era of the Ottoman Empire. This is essential for understanding the geopolitical complexities that have influenced the territories of Israel, Gaza, and their surrounding areas. Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories. One of the most significant factors that set the stage for the emergence of Hamas was the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territories. Following the Six-Day War in 1967, Israel gained control over the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. The occupation led to a series of restrictions imposed on the Palestinian population, including limitations on movement, land confiscation, and the establishment of Israeli settlements. These actions not only infringed upon the rights of Palestinians but also created a sense of collective humiliation and frustration. Suppression of Palestinian self-determination. Another critical element was the suppression of Palestinian self-determination. Despite various international resolutions calling for a two-state solution, the Palestinian quest for an independent state remained unfulfilled. The PLO, Palestine Liberation Organization, had been the dominant force advocating for Palestinian rights, but their efforts were often undermined by both internal divisions and external pressures. This suppression further fueled resentment among Palestinians, who felt that their voices were not being heard on the global stage. Socio-political environment. The socio-political environment in the Palestinian territories also played a role in the rise of discontent among Palestinians. High unemployment rates, poverty, and lack of access to essential services like healthcare and education exacerbated the already tense situation. Additionally, the Palestinian leadership was often viewed as corrupt and ineffective, leading to a loss of faith in traditional political structures. Rising discontent among Palestinians. The culmination of these factors led to rising discontent among Palestinians. The population was increasingly disillusioned with the status quo and began to seek alternative avenues for political expression and resistance. It was in this climate that Hamas emerged as a new force, offering a different approach to the Palestinian struggle. Unlike the PLO, which had secular leanings, Hamas had a distinct Islamic identity and advocated for armed resistance against Israeli occupation. Catalyst for change. The First Intifada, which broke out in December 1987, was a significant turning point in the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It was a grassroots uprising that involved widespread civil disobedience, protests, and confrontations with Israeli security forces. The Intifada was not just a series of isolated events. It was a collective expression of Palestinian frustration over decades of occupation and marginalization. The uprising was largely spontaneous, lacking a centralized leadership, but it quickly gained momentum and drew international attention to the Palestinian cause. The popularity and mass mobilization of Palestinians. One of the most remarkable aspects of the First Intifada was the mass mobilization of the Palestinian population. Men, women, and even children took to the streets to express their discontent. The use of non-lethal tactics like stone throwing and civil disobedience made it difficult for the Israeli military to respond without appearing heavy-handed, which further galvanized Palestinian unity and drew international sympathy. Community organizations, labor unions, and student groups played a crucial role in organizing protests and disseminating information. Role of religious and political factions. Before the Intifada, the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, was the most prominent Palestinian political entity. However, the Intifada provided an opportunity for other groups to rise to prominence. Religious factions, particularly Islamist groups, gained considerable influence. They framed the struggle not just as a political one, but also as a religious duty, thereby attracting a broader base of support. This shift in the narrative created a fertile ground for the emergence of new movements. The establishment of Hamas, the Islamic resistance movement. In this context, Hamas was founded in 1987 as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. Unlike the PLO, which was largely secular and nationalist, Hamas had a distinct Islamic identity. It aimed to establish an Islamic state in Palestine and was less willing to compromise on issues like the recognition of Israel. The group quickly gained popularity for its social welfare programs and its commitment to the resistance. Hamas carried out a range of activities, from providing social services to engaging in armed conflict with Israeli forces. Specific events and actions leading to Hamas' rise. Several key events contributed to the rapid rise of Hamas. First, the group's involvement in high-profile attacks against Israeli targets garnered significant media attention. Second, its social welfare programs, such as schools and hospitals, filled a void left by the inadequate infrastructure under Israeli occupation. These activities not only won the support of the Palestinian populace but also provided them with a platform to disseminate their ideology. Formation and rapid growth. Hamas, an acronym for Harakat al-Muqawama al-Islamiyya, or Islamic Resistance Movement, was established in 1987. Emerging from the First Intifada, a Palestinian uprising against Israeli occupation, the organization quickly gained traction among Palestinians. Its roots can be traced to the Muslim Brotherhood, a social and political Islamic organization. Internal dynamics. Hamas has a complex organizational structure that includes political, military, and social welfare arms. This multifaceted approach has allowed the group to embed itself deeply in Palestinian society, not just as a militant organization but also as a provider of social services like healthcare and education. Charismatic leadership. Key to the organization's rapid growth was the leadership of figures like Sheikh Ahmed Yassin. Yassin was an inspiring orator and a compelling ideological force behind Hamas. He galvanized support not just in Palestine but also among other Islamic communities. His leadership style made it easy for the group to solicit donations and attract volunteers, bolstering its ranks both domestically and internationally. Consolidation of power in Gaza and Palestinian territories. After the death of Yassin and others in the upper echelons of leadership, Hamas continued to grow in influence. It gained significant political ground in the 2006 Palestinian legislative elections, particularly in Gaza. The victory led to a power struggle with Fatah, the other dominant Palestinian political faction, culminating in Hamas taking complete control of Gaza in 2007. Since then, Gaza has been under the de facto governance of Hamas. Military strategy. Is ad-Din al-Qassam brigades. Hamas is perhaps most globally recognized for its military arm, the Is ad-Din al-Qassam brigades. This unit is responsible for numerous attacks against Israeli military and civilian targets. Their operations range from suicide bombings to rocket attacks and kidnappings. They have also been involved in tunnel construction, aimed at both smuggling and military operations. The group's military capabilities have evolved over time, incorporating more sophisticated weaponry and tactics, including drones and long-range rockets. Methods and strategies. Beyond military engagement, Hamas employs a range of tactics to achieve its objectives. These include diplomatic efforts with other Arab and Muslim countries, as well as a media strategy aimed at gaining international sympathy. The organization has its own television and radio stations, and its spokespeople are adept at using social media to spread their message. Hamas's goals and ideology. Hamas, originally an offshoot of the Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood, has both political and militant wings. Its objectives are rooted in both nationalist and religious ideologies. The group aims to establish a Palestinian state, and its methods often include acts of violence against Israeli targets. The ideological foundation of Hamas is based on a blend of Islamic principles and Palestinian nationalism, making its motives complex and multidimensional. End of Part 1.